Hi, Rach here. I'm going to show you how to do some simple flat felting techniques. Let's start by making an ear. Tear off some merino wool fibre. This is an eggshell colour. You only need a tiny bit for small ears like this. Now tear it up. I like to tear it into tiny little pieces, as small as possible. If you're using carded wool, you won't need to tear it like this. You can just scrunch it up, but when you're using tops, you do need to tear the wool up and twist it so that you get the fibres lying in all different directions. Lay your tuft of wool down on your felting mat and simply draw the shape that you want with your needle. So I'm going for a really simple round shape here. Check it for size. You might use a template that you've drawn, or you might use, we put templates in our kit, so you might like to use that, or you might use the ear that you've already made. Now felt inside that shape and then pull the fluffy edges in gently with your finger and continue felting inside the circle that you've made. You can use the edge of your needle to tuck those fluffy bits in. Now keep on felting till you're happy with the general shape, and then turn it over. You can see the fluff where I've pushed my needle through the wool into the mat. So this time we just tap very lightly and not go all the way through into the sponge. You shouldn't hear the foam mat when you're poking. Just tap it so that your needle is barely coming out the other side. Now let's do the edge. If you slide your needle between your finger and the shape and then very lightly slide it up and down, don't bring the needle out and poke it in each time because you will stab yourself. Just slide it very lightly and gently against your finger and tuck those fluffy bits in. And then as you slide them up, slide the needle up and down, they will bond to one side of the ear. Now you could use 2 pieces of card to do this, but if you're very careful and use small movements, you'll be fine. And if you're happy, let's go around the edge. This time lay it flat, and you want to use tiny, tiny little pokes, otherwise you'll distort the shape. So very softly, and then keep on felting it all over. When you're happy that you've got 2 the same, let's attach them to the model. And we do this by poking firmly in one corner of the ear. And believe it or not, this will bond quite quickly. You can pinch it a little bit to create a fold. And make sure to do the back as well. And then position the second ear, and let's add that in the same way. You might like to add a tuft of the cream wool to make it really secure, but I find that if you spend long enough poking like this, it will bond really firmly. And then once you have added your ears, you can always work into them a little more and make them firmer. Okay, using the same technique, I'll show you how to add a little flipper for our whale. It's very similar. So start by tufting up your fibre. Again, you only need a tiny little wisp. We use the teal merino for our whale. And when you've got a little scrunch, I mean, you would start with 2 if you're making 2 flippers. Normally you make them you make them both at the same time. That's a good tip. But we're just showing you how to do one here. So felt it firmly on both sides, turn it over, and then fold down one edge and work firmly along that with your needle. Pull in any fluff, and this time we're just working by eye. Although this kit does come with a template, so as you're doing this you can always use the template as a reference. It's quite a simple little shape, so you can just do it by eye. Turn it over, and then you just start tapping lightly to get rid of all that fluff. It's a good idea to hold it up against your model, make sure it's the right size. And once you're happy, just keep on gently poking at an angle to make sure that you're not pushing fluff out of the other side. And it will slowly become firmer and firmer until you are ready to add it to your model. We also use flat felting as a technique for making garments like cloaks and headpieces, skirts and all sorts of things like that. So I'm going to show you how we make a headdress for the shepherd. We're using some ash merino here, and again we're going to tear it up, tuft it up, tear it in all directions like this. Keep on tufting it up until you've got a nice scruffy scrunch, and then place it on the mat in sort of very roughly the shape that you want it to be, and then you're going to felt it all over. We're going to just create a piece of flat felt, and this headdress is a sort of a very rough semicircle. So you want to be thinking about that shape as you're felting this. So as it's a big piece, we're going to turn it over a few times. And you can see that it's quite see-through in places, which is fine because as we fold those edges in, it becomes thicker and smaller. So you don't want it to be too thick at this stage. Just keep on felting all over. Now that it's starting to take shape, let's fold over that top edge. So this isn't completely straight. It's the top edge of a semicircle, but it's not completely straight. It has a slight curve to it. So we're just going to poke gently along that edge to neaten it up and bring all of the fluffy bits down into the headdress. Turn it over and work on the other side as well in the same way. It takes a little bit of time to create flat felt this size, but it's worth it. Let's check it for size. So you want it to overhang the forehead slightly and come just below the bottom of the head. So if you're happy, let's do the bottom edge. This side is slightly more curved. So think about that shape as you're folding these edges in. You might like to draw yourself a template. The Nativity doesn't actually have a template, but you can play around with your shapes, and when you're happy you could draw yourself a template for your other cloaks. I think we make quite a few in this kit. Keep on felting so that you've got a nice neat shape. When you're happy with the shape, place it over the head. It should come down just below the bottom of the head and overhang slightly onto the forehead. If you attach it around the front there with some nice firm stabs. And at the back we're going to create some little folds. So just pinch the felt that you've made to decide where you want to put your fold. This makes it feel a little bit more like it's draping. And then poke in deep, firm lines either side of the fold. And you can repeat that process all the way around. This also helps to attach the headdress to your model. We use these flat felting techniques in most of our kits. We use them to make tails, ears, paws, all sorts of little features that you find, like our beaver kit. Also in our baby bird kit, you make these little wings and a tail in just the same way that we've shown you. Here's the finished shepherd. We've just added a braid around the top of the headdress. You can see we've used the same technique to make a little cloak. And we also use it in our springtime kit to make petals. So this might look complicated, but as we've just shown you, making simple little shapes is quite quick and quite easy. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about flat felting.